and gentlemen, it's such a pleasure to be here today with you. Now, in case you didn't know, I have been here before, right? But I'm a little bit older than I was then. Okay, I may be a lot older than I was then. But there's a whole lot more of me to love now that I'm here at this age. Now, how many of you have ever heard of anything called compression stockings or compression hose? You know about those, don't you? Well, picture this, somebody about 65 to 75 years old in the hospital, and they say you're going to have to wear compression stockings. So they send in 2 Greco-Roman wrestlers who each bench press about 500 pounds solid muscle, and they work and they squirm and they work and they get those compression hose on you, and then they send you home with a little dinky pair and they tell you every morning put them on. But they don't send the wrestlers home with you. And I've decided that I've watched how other people drive, and I am going to rewrite the North Carolina Driver's Manual. And I'm going to write it the same way people drive. For instance, in my driver's manual, it will say, if you come to a 4-way stop, do not use your signal. Make them guess. Or, let's say you're going through town and Darryl happens to be behind you a couple of cars, and you see that the light is green. And you've picked up in the past that usually it goes from green to yellow to red and you stop. So you know the pattern. And so when you see it's green, immediately slow down and try to ease toward that light. And perchance maybe it'll turn yellow, and finally it does. And you ease up to the line when it's turning yellow, and make sure there are plenty of people behind you. And when it turns red, you just floorboard it and go on. Leave them sitting there. Now, another thing that will be required in my book is, if you pull up to a red light and it happens to catch you and you're stopped there, and there are at least 5 cars behind you, you've got to make sure there are about 5 cars behind you. When the light turns green, don't move. Wait at least 20 or 25 seconds so everyone can finish texting. Anyway, now that I'm around 70, I continue to take surveys. I remember when I was 14, I think I took my first survey, and it had a category 10 to 20, and I checked that category proudly. And then I got into college, I was in my 20s, and I checked 20 to 30 on that survey. I got into my 30s and my 40s, and my 50s wasn't too bad, 50 to 60. And then not long ago I took another survey. I looked for my age, and you know what it said? Other. It stopped at 60. Now, when I watched the football, I picked up on something that's pretty curious. They are paying these young men $60 million to run up and down the field holding a part of a pig, the pig skin they call it. Now they're going 172,000 miles an hour down the sideline. And their goal is to reach the end zone and win the game and so forth. And I thought, well, that's okay. I should have, back when I could run that fast, joined up for that program. But I didn't. But now when they're doing this, I think, well, that's okay. But then I noticed something. I don't know if you've ever noticed this. There's a little bald-headed man out there on the field, and he got a little white shirt with black stripes on it. I think they call him the referee or something like that. Well, I got to looking at the television, and here goes this man doing 172,000 miles an hour, and I looked right beside him is the little bald-headed man running backwards. Just as fast as the other guy, and some sometimes he's faster than the other guy. Now, I don't know about you, but if I'm the coach, I think here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hire the little bald-headed man and just turn him around and give him the ball. I tell you what. I finally bit the bullet, and I went to my high school reunion. Now, this was my 5th high school reunion. The first number was a 5. I can't get past that. So I go all the way to Alabama. I drive a long way down there to see these 18-year-olds I graduated with. I get to the high school. I go down the hall, and here's a group of old people standing around down there. I asked them, I said, I'm looking for the high school reunion. They said, this is it. I said, oh. They said, you were in our class. I said, oh. And then I said, what did y'all teach? They said, you were our classmates. I said, what happened? They said, look in the mirror. They said, Darryl, you look the same today that you did when we were in high school together. And you know what? I got really depressed. Because I didn't realize I looked this bad back in high school. After I looked in the mirror, I decided it was time to lose weight. I want you to know last year, I lost 182.5 pounds.
All right.
Is that good? Yeah. Now, one day I lost a pound. The next day, I gained a pound. The next day I lost a pound. The next day I gained a pound. I did the math. It was 182.5 pounds that I lost. Of course, I also gained 182.5 pounds. And I leveled off at 250. I had a friend that had cataract surgery. I like to go visit people and see how they're doing, so I went by to visit this lady. I heard that it was a successful operation. So I went by there and I said, well, hey, how you doing? She said, not so well. And I said, well, you look depressed. I said, didn't you have your cataract surgery? She said, yes, I did. I said, well, was it successful? She said, yes, it was. I said, well, what's wrong? She said, the side effects. I said, what side effects? She said, it gave me wrinkles. Now, one day I was out at the fitness center. I still go there, try to swim a little, stay a little active, but I'm not the man I used to be, and I know that. But I go to the locker room, and one day I was in the locker room. There was a 19-year-old boy. He looked like the biology book. You know how they have all the little ripples and the muscles and everything? He was standing in front of that mirror like this. And you know what I told him? I said, how you doing, young fella? He said, fine. I said, well, I want you to know I finally found my purpose in life. He thought this was earth-shaking. He said, sir, what is it? He said, I found out that I'm here to let all you 19-year-olds know that no matter what you do, one day you're going to look like this. Now, one day, my wife, who taught for 37 years, finally ventured back on the campus after being retired for a while. I went with her, but I sat behind her so nobody had to think she was married to this. And right down there in front of her was one of her former students. Now, this particular student was now a grandmother, and she looked around and saw my wife, and she said, Mrs. Peebles, you are my favorite teacher. And I'm feeling really good about all this. And then she looked at my wife, not seeing me back there, and said, is Mr. Peebles still living?